To start off with today's talks in Pulag, we have a wonderful talk to come as the first talk. And let me also introduce the speakers and the title of the talk. The role of crowdsourced damage assessment in disaster response and recovery by Hani Fombuena and Bernard Henk. The role of crowdsourced damage assessment in disaster response and recovery, Hani Fombuena and Bernard Henk. Over to you.
Hello, hi everyone. Did you have breakfast already? I need to feel the energy. So, yeah. Uh, okay, so hi everyone. I'm Honey and I am from the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap Team, or HOT in short, and we are an international nonprofit dedicated to humanitarian action and community development through open mapping. So that is why in our projects we mainly use OSM. So we have been contributing a lot in OSM, and our goal for the last 5 years is to map 1 billion people all over the world. And I am happy to share that we have hit that goal already. Yes. So mapping 1 billion people, it's not just us, but kudos to the OSM communities across all different regions in the world. So for today, I will be sharing one of our recent projects, which is the 2025 Myanmar Earthquake's response. So as we all know, or if you're not yet familiar, last March, there's been a massive earthquake that happened in central Myanmar. And with that, HOT has activated a lot of HOT Tasking Manager projects. And right now, as we speak, we have almost 2 million building footprints mapped in OSM, more than 18,000 kilometers of roads, and this is a cumulative effort of more than 3,000 contributors all over the world. And this data, both the building footprints and the roads, we have uploaded them to Humanitarian Data Exchange, or HDX, and you can download them freely. And right now we have more than 1,000 OSM roads HDX downloads and more than 300 for the building footprints. So why did we start mapping buildings and roads for Myanmar? Because in the wake of the earthquake, we found that central Myanmar, the area where it was most hit by the earthquake, there is an estimated data gap in OSM of 85%. So imagine that. So most areas are not mapped. So what will the frontliners or decision makers use as their base map? So with that, we have started mapping. And also, we've looked at different AI-assisted open data sets, such as Microsoft AI and also Overture. So we tried to assess and check the OSM building footprints that are existing and also the existing AI-assisted data sets. So on the right, or on the left, the yellow ones, I hope you can see it. Those are the OSM building footprints. So you can see exactly that each building is delineated accordingly. While on the right side of this bigger picture, you can see the purple highlights the AI assisted data. So I think this is Overture. And although some buildings are mapped correctly, some are also inaccurately mapped. And we have noticed in the AI assisted building footprints that there are some weird shapes that they were able to generate, such as this one. If you can see, there is like an arrow shape that doesn't look like a building at all. And this is the comparison with the OSM buildings. So with that, we can see that um, there is huge accuracy increase in accuracy when it comes to mapping in OSM compared to AI assisted open data sets that are available. So for our project, we have three main goals. So first is to improve the foundational building footprints data in priority earthquake affected townships. So we have listed all of the townships in Myanmar according to the distance from the epicenter, and also to pilot a crowdsourced damage assessment. So in this presentation, I will mention CDA a lot. So know that it is crowdsourced damage assessment in all of the priority areas. And lastly, to develop a data comparison framework of open building footprints datasets. So HOT partnered with the MyOSM or Myanmar OpenStreetMap community. It is a network of local mappers that will ensure that our outputs are accurate and reliable. So OpenStreetMap Myanmar or MyOSM is our source for the local knowledge. So overall, this is the methodology of our CDA. So first, we open a project of building identification in MapSwipe. So if you are familiar with MapSwipe, you just click on a tile, swipe on a tile, and identify if that particular tile has a building or not. So it's that easy to use. And after the building identification in MapSwipe, we will now then map the buildings in the tasking manager. And after that, or even simultaneously with the building mapping, we have a pre-earthquake imagery and post-earthquake imagery comparison in MapSwipe. So MapSwipe has a lot of functionalities actually. You can try it out. So it's not just for building detection, but also for comparing two different satellite imageries or drone imageries. So after identifying which tiles has potential building damage, we are now mapping it to the hot tasking manager. So all of the buildings will be mapped as damaged that we identified from MapSwipe, not all, okay? And then the individual buildings that have been mapped as damaged from the tasking manager will now be validated to MapRoulette. So in MapRoulette, it's more of a micro mapping tool. So each building, we will closely look at it and see if it really has damage using the post-earthquake imagery. So here are our learnings from the project so far. So the benefits of crowdsourcing, we've seen that CDA or crowdsourced damage assessment is an approach that provides us the scalability and that can rapidly map and reach all affected populations at the same time. So since our activation last March, we have mapped 25 townships already in Myanmar. And we have done damage assessment for 17. Next would be the benefit of manually mapped and validated data. So comparing again the OSM buildings, a while ago you saw the existing ones. Right now we are comparing the already mapped ones from the activation and comparing it with Microsoft and Overture. So the OSM one is the purple bar or violet bar. And you can see that OSM is has 65% more buildings compared to automated machine learning datasets. And this is very important because if there is gap in data, meaning there are people that we are not representing on the map. And it is very evident, especially in areas that are vulnerable, like slums, which AI data sets usually overestimate. But in OSM, we map them one by one according to the buildings and roof. Okay, so here are our current findings from the CDA. So, aside from the CDA, HUT has identified other damage assessment methodologies, such as the UNASAT. So, for UNASAT, they have three types of damage. So, they have possible damage, damaged, and destroyed. So, destroyed is the full collapse of the building. But since our approach is our threshold is very high, I think. So, in comparing it with UNASAT, we remove the possible damage. So, we are comparing it only for the destroyed and damaged. And next would be the Microsoft AI, which usually has a range of 1% to 100% damage fraction. But in this case, since again we have a high threshold, we are now comparing it to the 50% to 100% fraction. And as you can see, comparing our results, the CDA approach, there is generally higher data compared to UNASAT, but lower than the Microsofts. So this is very interesting. We don't have the accurate insight yet. So currently, we are doing further analysis to determine why this is the case. So you can check our report later on. But to show you the results of our validation and consultation with the community, we can show you how they are detecting damage and what are the blockers that they experience while doing so. So here, our mappers have seen that poor resolution and discolored imageries, especially the post-earthquake imagery, blocks them to detect damaged buildings. So for the low resolution and discolored, you can see that it is very hard to even see the buildings. And if you want to check damage, it will be much harder. And for the shadows, especially for tall structures, they will cast shadows on the lower ones, and that will affect on how they visually inspect the damaged buildings. And actually, this is very important because if we are mapping with volunteers that has no local knowledge, for example, this one, structural developments. So for this building on the left side, you can see that there was a change on top of it. And actually, the AI models detect it as damage. But as human, and also if you have the local knowledge, you will know that it is just a structural development on top. And it's not. Yes, it can be a chicken coop. So it's really not damaged, but AI models detected it as is. So this is very important. That's why CDA came to life. And we also have urban developments wherein you may treat it as totally destroyed or collapsed building wherein there are no buildings at all. But because of the local knowledge of our Myanmar mappers, they know that there have been urban developments or clearing in that area. So it is not damage, but just urban development or activity. And you can also see that here, this large area in Piggy Tagon, huge amount you cannot see anymore, and you can treat it as damaged buildings. But again, the mappers, our local mappers, understand that in this area there have been major developments. So we did not tag them as damaged. And this one, for example, on the right side, UNOSAT has classified it as damaged. But local knowledge of the stupa helped the mappers recognize that there is no visible damage, although it is not very clear. So, what are the advantages and limitations of this approach, the CDA? So, here we have a graph of damage or not damage graph. And basically, this is the summary. 6 out of 10 buildings, for 6 out of 10 buildings assessed, there is less than 10% difference in opinions. And then for 8 out of 10 buildings assessed, there is less than 25% difference in opinions. And for 2 out of 10, there is more than 25%. So through our validation workshops, we can confidently say that there is an 80% close agreement among our mappers. And it is very important to achieve that level of agreement because this is crowdsourcing. So we must need that all mappers has the same level of skills in identifying damage. So let me just have a quick activity here. So you're like our Myanmar mappers right now. So give me a show of hands. Is this building on the right damaged or not? So if it's damaged, can you raise your hand in 3, 2, 1? Okay. I see a lot of hands and you are correct. So this is damaged. Yes. However, yes, congrats. But however, UNOSAT missed this building and did not tag it as damaged. Yes. Yes, this is the pre-earthquake and this is the post-earthquake. Uh, I'm not sure, but I don't have the local knowledge again. Maybe Patrick, do you have what? Why was the roof like that? I mean,
What kind of roof is that? I never seen anything like that. Materials, it can be like the COVID, for example. I think the shape of the building looks rather.
okay. For the next question, again a show of hands. Is the building on the right damaged or not? In 3, 2, 1. Okay, there's confusion among the answers. Actually, the answer is no. Okay. So mappers noted that although there have been like missing buildings here for the post-earthquake, it is because of the major urban developments and not because of the earthquake.
Where the blue roof go kind of way, I mean,
Yes.
the blue stuff to be on the ground.
It's a clearing. Yes, that's correct. So here are just a word cloud of the things that our mappers look at to determine damage. So you can see they look at the architecture, the changes in environment, the location or context, resolution and color, and shape and position. So mainly roof, shadow, satellite, collapse. Yes. So just some words from our quotations from our Myanmar mappers. So this is very interesting, the second one. I assumed it was damaged as I can see golden reflection. It's very localized context wherein they know that stupas are usually covered with golden painting. So they since they didn't see the reflection, they know that there is damage. All right. So these are the things that they have realized. So for our next steps, now I want you to think about the data that we will be producing from this project. The question is, are you interested to access it and to use it? So how are how are you going to use the data of the buildings and damaged buildings? Are you interested in making maps to convey your message? Or do you have other map products or features that you want us to help you with? So now we are looking for data users. So if you are one, please reach out to us and email our project lead, Bernard Heng. So his email is there. And if you have other needs such as humanitarian response support, data quality, support for OSM communities, partnerships, mobilizing contributors, improving your data use, capacity development, trainings, and mobilizing funds, the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap Team or HOT is here for you. So please scan the QR code if you are interested to join our mapathons for Myanmar. So we still have some townships, rural parts of Myanmar that we can map for this. So that's it for me. Before I end, let me just ask Patrick, do you have some words for us? So Patrick is part of the CDE Myanmar.
Well, I can say a couple of words since you invite me. Yeah, so my role basically in Myanmar, I've been working, living there for like more than 7 years, and not directly for OSM, but I also try to introduce and use OSM in the tasks there. And we've been, after the military coup, which happened 4 years ago, we've been trying to kind of reactivate the OSM community in Myanmar, which kind of fell apart through the military action there, through many young people leaving the country, through people struggling for their livelihoods. And as such, we kind of regrouped and organized and got more people into an organization or in a group. It's called My OSM. And as such, we kind of try to improve the data in OSM for Myanmar, because first, Myanmar is probably one of the most undermapped countries in Southeast Asia. And also there's really no alternative to large-scale GIS data. So in other countries, you might be able to access from government sources or other organizations large-scale data, but in Myanmar, it just doesn't exist. Yeah. And so, for example, when this earthquake happened in March this year, it came on top of 4 years of civil war already. And there was just no spatial data available. So the first approach was we tried to reach out to Google to ask if they can make the building footprints available, because they're pretty good. But they rejected based on the ground that conflict countries, they do not release the building footprint of Google for Myanmar. And as Hani explained, the data from Microsoft and Overture and so on is just not fit for purpose. So, and since it's really important to get good large-scale data, including building footprints, roads, to kind of estimate how many people are affected, what buildings are affected, how to get to certain areas for this earthquake, but also for long-term to just create a better data set for base maps. So we were very kind of grateful actually that we could team up with HOT to launch this project and on a large scale to map those building footprint. And it's still ongoing. And this first of all helps to kind of actually create data which is useful for many, many purposes. On the other hand side, it also helps to give local Myanmar people the opportunity to learn, to kind of get mentorship, to get training and get more and more involved in OSM and to make OSM data more known by the different humanitarian organizations in Myanmar. Yeah. So I want to say thank you very much. And if you have some time or you have some groups and you want to contribute to either mapping roads, building footprints, or other things, so we're mapping, for example, also like energy infrastructure, feel free to kind of reach out to us and to HOT.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this session.
Thank you very much, Hani, for that insightful presentation. And we are so glad to hear your great work on crowdsourced mapping in Myanmar earthquake. So we have a few questions from Venulis before moving on to this. Yeah, any question? Yeah.
Or don't you need this week's and last week's aerial photograph to you? If you used 6 months ago, then you'll have all that construction interference.
Yeah, so that will be our next step because damage is actually a temporary tag in OSM. So we must need to verify again if it is being rebuilt and tag again as what's the current status. But yeah, we acknowledge that yeah.
Thank you. And do we have more questions? Yeah.
Once you label something as damage, how long before you revisit it? Is it every month, every day, or random?
I think for this scale, it's not that micro, so I think we have to launch another like mapathon or project for it.
Okay, I think we can look for some venue-less questions as well. Have you looked into why Overtune failed to meet expectations? Like it may not be optimized to be used for countries like Myanmar.
Why overture? I can't say that for overture, but but yeah, mainly because I think the key for CDA is the localization. So there is more context to how we are mapping it. So it's not just the raster and segmentation, the technical sides of it, but there is the local context.
What challenges might rise when applying crowdsourced methods across multiple disaster affected regions simultaneously?
I think on what we showed, the level of agreement is one of the challenges that we really need to take into consideration. So there is some capacity building first for the mappers before they are able to identify damage. Because if you haven't seen like damage or have been mapping damage for a very long time, it won't be that easy. So I think the capacity building is a huge part of how we achieve that 80% agreement percent.
Any questions from the venue?
Thank you. So, I understood that you checked a bit usability of AI data, and I understood that partially it was not unusable and partially it was usable. And did this data make your work a little faster, your work, or not at all? Partially usable or not?
For the AI? I think mainly the AI data gave us somehow of a reference. It's not the ultimate truth, but it's a reference on how we are, how much percent are we are mapping as damage. So, for example, after mapping damage in a certain township, we will compare it with the UNOSAT data. And if our numbers are too different, we will redo the process because maybe we have missed something or maybe we need to increase the agreement score for all the mappers. So it is still very useful, but again, for using it for the community, CDA is hopefully we can recommend it at the end of the project. Yes.
I think we can go for one last question. Anyone from the venue? No. You mentioned using AI to detect the buildings. Which model did you use for that accuracy?
We didn't use AI. We just compared it with AI derived data products. So that is Unisat and that is Microsoft AI and Overture.
Okay, thank you, Hani. There are two more questions. I'll just combine them. Um, if resources are limited, what do you think should be the first priority when checking for damage to a building? And
What is limited? Sorry.
if resources are limited, what do you think should be the first priority when checking for damage to a building?
Maybe first the post earthquake imagery is one of the first thing that you have to use. And when assessing damage, I think really you have to you have to check damage all over and all over again because as for me, even though I am training the gurus, I also get insights from them. So yeah, I think you have to familiarize yourself all over again.
Thank you very much, Hani, for your detailed answers to the questions from the venue and the venue-less. I think now we can take a break before moving to the next speech to set up. Thank you.